Welcome to the latest episode of the Rogue Treatment Podcast.
I forgot what number we're up to.
I think it's number 5.
Good job.
Is it?
Yep.
Okay. Nice to see you, James.
Thanks.
Off the back of our last podcast, we were set a challenge out of the shoe, and which was meant to be the hat, but we're sticking with the shoe now, right, James?
Well,
yeah,
we're sticking with the shoe because you want to stick with the shoe.
Yeah,
so that's fine.
We're sticking with the shoe.
We're doing shoeies.
And one of our viewers asked to hear from Gavin, who is a bit of a guru in our space, in the health space. We've locked him in, not for this podcast, but he's later in the program, so that's going to be good. And so we looked into another challenge set by a viewer. This is from Emily from Marrickville. So thanks, Emily. She says, why is sales such a hard sell?
Yes.
Yeah. So I put this to you, James, and we thought of some guests to come on. And I think we've got a fantastic guest to bring on. And
I think we do. Yeah.
So well done to you. You brought that one to the table.
Yes. So off the back of that question, thanks to Gav for, putting us off and leaving us high and dry, but that's all right.
Yeah, it's worth the wait.
It's worth the wait, 100%. You guys would definitely love hearing from Gav. But yeah, so we picked the next question, but we picked this one because we wanted to talk about this one as well.
We like this one.
So we didn't really pull this out of a hat. Yeah. We liked talking about this.
Yeah.
And so we've got with us Cam from Sales Hero. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Glad to be here.
So Cam has done multiple sales launches for health and fitness brands. He was just telling us he's done lots of different things like, what was the one that you was like for spray foam?
Yeah, we're selling everything from fitness to concrete to roof restoration, spray foam installation, mold removal.
Yeah, the mold.
You got a product, we'll sell it.
Perfect. Well, we've got then the best person to chat about this question with, what was the question?
So why is sales such a hard sell?
Why is sales such a hard sell? That's right.
Yes.
So I don't think we could have got anyone better on. So appreciate you joining us.
Glad to be.
And his one stipulation was if he's going to come on, we had to drink. He wanted some alcohol. He said he works best when he's drinking alcohol. So I have pulled out for us a whiskey.
You're kidding.
No, I'm not. A whiskey.
You're kidding.
That we're going to drink whilst we're doing the podcast. And it's Cam wanted this. So.
I feel like there's been a little bit of miscommunication.
Yeah. What was the miscommunication?
We were meant to be drinking the night before the podcast for me to do my best work.
You didn't really stipulate that.
Yeah, I didn't. You're right.
You said, I do my best work when I drink. And I said, done.
Yeah, you're probably right. I probably did say that.
Cheers.
Well, cheers.
Cheers, Cam.
Very good.
Oh, it smells good.
Oh, bloody hell.
Ooh.
Texas
whiskey, guys. Hey,
delicious.
You all right, mate?
Oh, yeah, that goes down well.
Very good. All right, well, let's jump into it, guys. For me, I think, obviously we worked together with Change, and I've seen not just how you work, but how your team works in this space. And it's funny because, I think I've said to you in the past how much I enjoy sales in the past. But then watching how your team do things, it's like, oh, wow, this is a really different approach to how I would have done it in the past.
Would you say it's a rogue approach, James?
They have a rogue approach. So, and then obviously you mentioned before we jumped on that, the traditional way of doing sales is through scripts and through, objection handling, scripts and forms and things like that. And you guys do have a little bit more of a unique way. And like I said, I've watched it in action. Do you want to let's start with that. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how you guys approach sales before we dive into the big question?
Yeah, for sure. I think it depends on the people that you bring on board always, yeah. We know that different people learn different ways, but my approach is to give people a bit of a license to feel natural. Yeah, like if you're feeling robotic or if you're feeling like you're just, you don't feel comfortable at all. Obviously, you're not ever comfortable the first time around anyway. It doesn't really flow.
Yeah.
So you want people to be able, you want to be able to mold people through them first feeling comfortable. Because if you're, asking a dog to be a cat or a cat to be a dog, it's going to be a long journey. But if you can first allow somebody to feel like they can bring their own flavor to what sales actually is. And one of the things we're starting to say at the moment is like sell the sizzle, not the steak. So you don't need to all the product knowledge and you don't need to know all of the scripts. Actually, you just need to speak to value and you need to be yourself because people are going to resonate more with that. So that's kind of a large part of our approach really is like find your feet by having some fun on the job and then, then you can sharpen your tools a little bit more.
Yeah. And I guess that's kind of like, I guess even in a sales script, you kind of want to adapt that, right? Mm-hmm. But people like shy away from it, and the hardest part, obviously being in health business, like naturally health practitioners don't know how to sell. They're fucking terrible at it.
Yeah.
They hate it.
And they hate it too. They hate it too. And even it's the word...
not my job. That's not my job.
Yeah. Even the word sales is like, oh, wait, you want me to sell? And, like, oh, what about over-servicing clients? What's the best for them? And it's got that... To me, that has nothing to do with the sale. It's interesting because I always say this, right? They say that they don't want to sell, but they know how to fucking pitch to me when they want a pay rise.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, it's very interesting that it's like, I don't want to sell in a particular, way or a particular realm or I just put it down to fear of selling. What would you say about that?
Well, first I would say what actually is sales. Because my view is everything is sales. Yeah. Literally everything. Yeah. Like if I came in here and I didn't look the part, you'd probably, be like, oh, should we have even invited Cam on today? Do you know what I mean? That was like the first step I took in here is sales, how I present myself, my posture, my body language, am I smiling when I first walk into an environment, or am I greeted with this, like literally everything. Like if you're going to buy your $4 coffee to start the day, who are you going to buy it from? The person that actually makes you feel like somebody or the person who's just like, doesn't even look up from the counter, presses the buttons and passes it. Like everything is sales. So I guess, going back to, the big question really is like, why is people within your business and every business scared of sales? It's like, it's about being comfortable with discomfort. And also you need to always put yourself in the shoes of somebody else. So if we know, like if I look to my circumstances, like I've gone through some level of hardship in my life. I've bought a property, had to sell it for half the price of what I did. A cyclone went through Townsville and, so those kinds of things make you more empathetic to other people who may or may not be dealing with circumstances that you have absolutely no idea about, and you're not going to pick up on those things in the first 3 seconds. But quickly you can find or feel when there's barriers in place. So if we go back to a physio clinic, which I know very little about, and you've got your physio who I imagine tries to deliver a world-class experience to the person who's got some kind of ailment that they need to support or service somebody to get better over a period of time. You don't want that person to be like, okay, well, you fixed me in session 1. It's like, no, nobody's fixed in session 1. This is going to take a little bit of time. And, and like in the fitness space anyway, we often want trainers and managers to say one simple question at the end of a class. When are we going to see you again? Yeah. It makes somebody feel loved and valued. Absolutely. That person, for all we know, is going home to a shitty relationship or no relationship. Maybe they're depressed. Maybe this is the highlight of their day, their week. Their month, depending on, how often they can get into a facility like this. So, when you've got these, these bright-eyed, personalities who can take a great class, that interpersonal skill and that, that initiative to actually make the person feel something, it's you could take a mediocre class. It could be an average class, but you ask that question at the end, hey, well done today. When are we going to see you again? You feel like somebody. And then all of a sudden you've forgotten that you may not even know as a consumer that the class was so as well. So I think, going back to it that was sales. It's just, it's a retention tool that might lead to a conversion if the person's on trial. So anyway, I don't know what the original question now is, but the point is like everything is sales. Literally everything.
No, I'm with you. Sorry, were you going to say something?
No, I was just going to say like that. We talked about the scripts, right? And how sales isn't, you're talking about your difference being not scripts. I understand that's only one question at the end of a session, asking when are we going to see you again. And I guess that's touching on like the emotion part, which is why they're probably going to come back. But when people, and you spoke about when people are, and I'm touching on a couple of things here, but when people are like uncomfortable with sales, and that's the hardest part about getting like selling, because we're talking about the question being is, why is sales such a hard sell? Is it the being uncomfortable part? And then do you use scripts to help that? Or in your realm, or are you sort of like letting people find it their own way and then helping out with a couple of other things? How does that work?
Yeah, we like to get our salespeople in obviously one environment, so there's indirect coaching. Yeah, so like if I just constantly interrupted James and said, "Oh, James, like no, say this then instead of that, or say this," then all of a sudden you start getting up in your head a little bit. But if you're the fly on the wall, you know, you're new on the job in a new environment, and you're hearing other people sell for a particular product or service or multiple, and you hear the different tones, the different lingo and language being used, you start to like be coached without being told as well. It's like, I just saw this person sell this way for this person, this way for another person, this way for another. Okay, the wheels are starting to turn already, and then you can start layering it a little bit, because you want them to feel like, okay, if this person can go off the grid a little bit and go down this approach and that approach, then I assume I can too. Yeah, so actively listening is really important, so you know what to say. But I think the comfort with discomfort part is because I imagine anyway that when we think of the word sales as people that don't like it, they often think of probably one or two key things, which is, I'm going to be asking for their money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
100%.
But it's more than that, actually.
Absolutely.
You're asking for them to potentially make an investment towards something that's good for them, unless you're selling something that you hate or something that you don't like or something that you don't believe in. And if that's the case, you're probably in the wrong job.
That is probably the biggest point there, right? Like, if you believe in your product, right? Now we can talk from a physio point of view, or from a health point, exercise point of view. Like, I haven't met a physio that hasn't said, they got into the job because they wanted to help people. Like, literally, it's the number one question I ask in every interview, and I fucking laugh every time, right? Because they say, "Oh, I wanted to do it because I wanted to help people," or "I experienced some X, Y, Z, and it made me want to make sure other people didn't experience it." You know, you get into the fitness industry, it's the same thing. Like, "Oh, I want to help people keep happy and healthy and fit." But then when it comes to the sales, it's like, "Oh no, but like I can't tell people about that." So like what you were talking about with that question before is like the active listening. We talked about value previously as well. So do you think that maybe the art of selling is understanding the tools? So like, to me, like, if you're providing value to someone, like you said, it's not about selling the money. It's selling the value that it can bring to their life. You know, if it's, you talked about the spray foam. Like, what's spray foam going to do? Hang on, it's going to make sure that you're able to. And I've got no. What are you going to spray foam, right? But like, here's the sell. Here's the sell, right? It's insulation, right? So if we put this in your house, you're going to have a warmer house in winter, a cool house in summer. You're going to drop your electricity bill, and you're going to be able to make sure that
Give the man a job. Give the man a job. Yeah, you're on it.
You know what I mean? But that's value.
Yeah,
right?
that's
We're
right.
not even talking about the money now. So if you don't have this spray foam, or if you have old battens that we now know could be fucking hazardous, and you could get a catch on fire, or some of those battens that were placed during, what was it, like the 2008 crash, and they had those batten pushers that they were installed incorrectly. So that's, if you're talking about that, hey, these ones should come out. They're probably old, they probably didn't work, they're probably not good for your home and your health. So let's take those out. Let's put this new and improved spray foam value there as well. Like, I think that's where people get stuck in talking about sales. Coming back to my question is, what tools do you think it is? Because we can talk about scripts being a tool. We know that they don't work. Right? So what tools would you say are important for someone to learn, active listening, show value, but I think there's more than that. What would you say?
Ooh, going against the grain a little bit.
That's what we want, mate. This is the road trip.
Baby.
Like, and you can give many examples of this, but like, riding a bike, like nobody just gets on and is a superstar rider from the first time. So part of it is just experience and exposure, So you can have all the best tools and all the best learning videos, but you still just need to have a crack. You still need to get past the fear of failure, So we do hot leads, we do warm leads, we do cold leads. And each of those 3 categories of our kind of service related items, and some of them obviously the whole hog. But if we're thinking about the cold calls that we do, the pure cold call accounts, we always say you need to do a minimum of 60 dials a day to move the needle. Because we know there's going to be a lot of people that will just say, piss off, leave us alone, go away. But the thing about if you put any person in your business onto doing calls, and whether they're working on hot, warm, or cold for that matter, they're probably going to cop some of that anyway. So you need a level of like, okay, getting past that fear of failure if you're new, or even if you're seasoned, it's got to be, okay, repeat efforts. Okay, this is normal. I'm going to change my approach. I'm going to try this approach. I'm going to be more catchy in the engagement. Like, you got to throw the different pieces of spaghetti at the wall.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about perfect scripts or training tools or whatever else. Like, you need an encyclopedia of kind of like information to kind of work with. So you don't actually get that unless you have experience to it. And I think one of the examples I often give to people as to why I'm not scared of selling absolutely anything that I have no idea about to anyone at any point in time. You can call somebody now and I'll have a crack. It doesn't bother me. Is there was a job I had, and it was a gym 10 or so years ago, where maybe a bit longer, where we were asked to sell a big box 24/7 gym from a shopping centre. Yeah, like everyone's been to a shopping centre and been like, who's these idiots handing out flyers? Yeah, it was meant to be a 3-month job. It turned into a 6-month job. Yeah, because the delay in the opening. We opened, well, first we sold off a 2D floor plan. There was nothing fancy about it. Yeah, we opened with 1,300 members.
Wow,
off a 2D floor plan. Yeah, now obviously some of it, I'm not going to take credit to all of it because location, we know these things add value. But obviously, could you imagine the amount of objection, rejection kind of stuff you have when you've got somebody just walking past you in a shopping centre?
Yeah.
So you had to lean on the things that you did have, not the things that you didn't have, because you didn't have a gym yet.
Yeah.
So what do you have? You've got yourself. That's the start. Buckle up, look the part. Yeah. Be engaging. Probably have a couple of strong,
whiskeys.
People, strong whiskeys. Well, then it would have been whatever it was. I wasn't on the whiskey during the day job, but it would have been, and I think I only would have just found coffee, but it could have been coffee. You know what I mean?
10 years ago. You don't have to lie.
Yeah, it's true. But yeah, long story short is like, exposure and experience is really important because that builds confidence and belief. Yeah. I don't know. It's like, the first time you go on a date, you're shaking your boots kind of thing you've never been dating before or whatever it is. Or maybe it's the first time post a relationship breakup. You're nervous about the idea of putting yourself back on the market. The same goes when you move into a new job or you sell a new product or a new service, or like there's going to be a period of nerves, but then it becomes normal and comfortable. And then you're like, okay, don't mind this dating thing. Don't mind getting to know other people. And that's what sales is. You're constantly getting to know different personality types and trying to overcome objections before the objections come to you. Because if they come to you, then you might be off guard. You're like, oh, didn't expect that one. But once you get experience, you're going to be like, based on this tone or this word in a sentence, I can already predict what the objection is going to be in 3 sentences later. So now I'm already prepared. Wow. But what?
Can you give us an example of that?
Okay. You say to me, look, I just want to think about it. I'm just not too sure yet because got a few things that might be going on later this month, and it's maybe the start of the month. They're like, oh, James, what's going on later in the month? Because if are you going away for a work trip or something? Maybe while you're talking, I've already Googled you as well. I know that you've got a job that probably dictates some travel. So I know that the objection you're probably going to give me is like, I'm actually going to Canberra between this date and that date. No problem. Hey, in my mind, the obviously the counter to that is like, hey, James, you don't go away until this date. That's totally fine. How about we give you some training so you don't lose that mojo you're currently in? Because you're in your trial, you're having a great experience, but then you're disappearing in 10 days. So what you just want to, like in my head, I'm like, he just wants to stop now to only start 3 weeks later. But 3 weeks later, he's going to forget about us because we're not going to be a priority. Yeah. Let's keep the momentum going. Let's get that contract signed by giving him just that free week between now and his trip, and let him know that his first debit is actually going to happen on return from his trip. He's now committed. He's got something to look forward to. He doesn't lose that rhythm through the first 3 workouts within his 7-day trial or whatever.
Yep.
And, you know, he's now a step in the door as opposed to a step out. So like, it's just predicting at all times. And if it's not that, because work travel is one of the things, and we know that the most common thing is going to be financial, then you got to speak to that.
Well, that's probably the biggest, you know, when you look at the biggest objections, it's going to be time, finance, and work, right?
Yeah.
And I think, you know, when you look at those 3 biggest objections, I like the predictive kind of, and that comes down to the active listening, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're predicting where this conversation's going, you can preempt that. Just go, hey, okay, cool. Obviously, it sounds like you got something happening, like, or you're traveling. Well, we know that that's important to you. We can't stop you from doing that. But, you know, health, fitness, and you start, you know, so you're saying use what they're saying as a way to jump in front of the objection. So, but the objection isn't, hey, I've got a lot happening. The objection is, oh no, I travel for work. So you want to stop that from happening? Is that what you're saying?
We're trying to use what they're not saying.
Okay.
Yeah. Because like you have to be at all times guessing that it's more than one thing, because what you might be guessing it is could be wrong. So it's like, it's either based on what I'm hearing so far, it's probably this, but it could be that, or then it's this. Yeah. So it's like you're just constantly kind of having all those cards in your back pocket and working out what it is. But those cards in the back pocket are not dirty cards. They're supportive cards. Do you know what I mean? And they're empowering, because if you know that you can support somebody, because you know the likelihood is they are going to get too busy. And come back from their work trip, they're going to realize there's this bill in their mailbox of body corporate or something that they completely forgot about. We've come from number 2 priority in their life to number 6. Do you know what I mean? So how do we stay number 2 as well? This is what we're going to do. We're going to keep that. We're going to create the habit now. Look, it's interesting that one of the things that we're talking about with sales and being uncomfortable as well is like, it is this like ability to pivot, to juggle, to dance is the I guess the phrase that I'll often use. You need to dance with people. Is how do you do that if you're actually not even having a voice-to-voice or face-to-face interaction? And we know that in this day and age, people want to hang behind a keyboard or a phone. So some of my portfolio, our portfolio, is in Singapore. Singaporean market is a little bit more nervous with the idea of speaking to the phone, and we think it's because of scammers in Australia. It's like significantly more of a concern in that market. And so they're often on WhatsApp, and you're doing a lot of sales work via WhatsApp. So if I was trying to convert you via WhatsApp, and the person says to me, oh yeah, look, you know, I'm actually between jobs, so can you do a better deal? And, you know, like, if you're just going to acknowledge that with like, oh, well, because you asked, I'm going to do a better deal. Well, then you're not going to, like, you're not actually a salesperson at all. You're just pulling your pants down and saying, take me for what I am. And you can screenshot this and you can show 10 of your friends. And if you do the same approach, they'll also look after you the same way.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you have to be armored up with a whole bunch of tools. And I guess going back to your earlier question is those tools come through experience. Yeah. And also going back to the very, I guess, earliest thing I said about what I do in my business is, for you to be armored with those things, you need to feel like you're licensed with those things. And if I'm working for an employer that I don't feel actually trusts me with this massive responsibility, because it is a massive investment for a business owner to put the hands of their baby, their work baby, into the hands of, you know, a 20, 30-year-old who maybe doesn't actually give 2 shits about their investment at the same level. Maybe they give 1 shit, 1.5 shits, but not 2 shits. Then all of a sudden you're putting a lifelong, a lifelong amount of savings into somebody that perhaps is just traveling for 6 months and you know, looks the part, speaks nicely, but actually at the end of the day they're not asking for the sale. So you're spending thousands in marketing, in lead gen, agency fees, retainers here, there, and everywhere, and then all of a sudden it stops with somebody that is too scared just to have a conversation, to ask, when are we going to see you again? And by the way, just out of curiosity, because it seems like you're absolutely loving it here, is there anything stopping you from wanting to continue beyond your trial? Oh my gosh, what an easy thing to say, but the scariest thing for most staff to want to say. Well, just out of interest, because maybe you haven't picked up on it, and that's fine.
Yeah.
What is there something that's stopping you? Because I'd love to look after you if I can.
We call the elephant out in the room, right? So sometimes we even go along the lines of when it comes back to that preemptive part of the conversation, is like, well, is it a financial issue that's stopping you? You know, how can we best help you? Because if it is a financial issue, what can we do to navigate that? So we call it the elephant out in the room, and
you see like the cues, that like they might be a bit hesitant but they might not be wanting to tell you, and they're going a little bit quiet, or they're like, oh geez, I know this is sales is going to come at me now. I guess calling out the elephant in the room is like about just bringing that up before they have a chance to sort of come back at you at it, or just leave and not buy the product anyway.
Spot on. And the way that I would do that, which is similar but different, is instead of calling it out, you tell a story that calls it out, so then they feel more comfortable to tell their story. It's like, hey, just so you know, like obviously I do this kind of all day long, so in case this is like a financial thing, it might not be, but the last person that came in just before you, what we did was X, Y, and Z because their circumstances look like this. Just out of curiosity, like, would that be something that supports you as well? Because if you're taking the educated guess, but you're like, this person looks like they've got a bit of pride about themselves, and maybe they are really embarrassed, and they've dropped their expensive car keys on the desk, but it's all completely financed, and so they don't want to actually tell you that they're waiting on the next paycheck before they can pay the next $50, $100, $150 for whatever it might be. So I think you just got to be like, and you're not even asking. It might be just like, oh, by the way, the last person that came in here, I looked after them, and is this something that could support you as well? They're going to like, thank you said that. Like, thank you so much, because yes, that's exactly what I need. And actually I really want to see you again, but I don't get paid until Thursday.
And Cam, like you say that to me, for example, I think, shit, this guy actually cares about and like wants to help me, or wants to, he finds that he sees the gap that I need in that service or whatever or that product, and it's like he's actually willing to make it work, as opposed to like, here it is, black or white, and it's like, I've got my walls up, I've made my decision, I'm out. You know what I mean?
Spot on. They'll be your biggest fans. They will be your biggest ambassadors. Like, so you've gone from losing somebody because they don't have the capacity, to supporting somebody, and they referred 15 other people into your business purely because you asked the question and cared. So it wasn't even about the one conversion you got. Maybe you still don't get that person, but you maybe that doesn't move the mountain, but the person still walks away. So this is even more powerful than a conversion. This person still walks away and says, wow, that person genuinely cared. Yeah. That is the loudest, proudest walking, talking marketing you can get. You didn't get a conversion, but the person genuinely felt that you weren't salesy, you were just empathetic, you gave a shit, and you looked after them in the ways that you could, that maintained integrity in your business, but made them feel accommodated for. So they don't buy from you now, but they do buy from you later, and they do send people to you, and you do get a 5-star Google review and all of the other good things that every other business wants, and without being a salesperson, just through being putting a puzzle together and trying your best to fit the pieces.
Do you think? I'm sorry. Do you think that's what the hard part is? Is like people don't want to put the puzzle together. Like, I think about all the businesses that I've been involved in, and it's maybe just easier to just treat the client, or it's maybe just easier that they just come and exercise, or whatever it is, right?
Whatever's gonna like pat their ego.
It's gonna pat the individual's ego.
Yeah.
As opposed to patting the client's ego.
They're more worried about themselves as opposed to.
I guess I'll tell the story that obviously I've hired a lot of people in sales now, and my best salespeople don't always have sales experience. But there's some common values inside of them that are transferable in that space. If they're given those licenses to look after people in an integrity, kind of integral manner. Is that what I'm trying to say?
Integrity?
Don't ask me, mate.
Yeah, that'll work. It's the alcohol.
You had
another drink.
No, there's two or three. So I guess, and it is a check to the ego. So when I first started the biz and I was hiring full-timers and stuff, there's people that interview in particular ways, and one guy was like, oh yeah, you should see me, I won all these accolades, I've done this, I won this state award, this national award. I was like, oh cool, the guy's got tickets on him, so if you need some confidence, I'll hire him. And he did okay. But very quickly there was a check yourself moment, because he realized everyone was doing better than him. Everyone. Yeah, including the newest kids that I'd bring on board that had no sales experience. And that guy, he wasn't lying about his accolades, but being able to sell multiple different products and services with different styles and different approaches is a different set of skills. So I guess, going back to it, I guess, trying to find people that are, speaking the same language. One of the things I was speaking to my team about yesterday was like, people need to be on the journey. If they're not on the journey, it doesn't matter how much experience you give them, how many training tools, they're going to pick and choose when they want to use those things.
100%.
So that's probably the biggest thing. If we were to kind of completely rewind to the start of this episode, that's exactly what we talk about. It's just like, how do you bring people on the journey? Because then you've got a foundation to work with.
And would you say that maybe, sorry again, but bringing the people on the journey is the way that you tell those stories, is the way that you paint that picture?
Well, you want to trust and have confidence in the people that employ you. You want to believe in them. Like, one of the things that I'm embarrassed to admit, but also proud to say, is that every single one of my staff works significantly longer than they should. Every day. I don't ask them to. They all know they can.
How do you do that?
It's not how I do it. It's because they're on the journey. They want to. So they believe, and because it's true, that every single one of their actions is meaningful to us as a business and to the people that we do business with. So because of that, they want to do it. It's like, if your partner says, oh, like, I appreciate you cooking dinner or throwing the rubbish out, then you're probably doing it more often because you're more conscious of it. So my team members know that regardless of what their role and responsibilities are, that it all intertwines into an end result of making a difference for not just ourselves, but for other people. So they're on the journey, so they give a shit. And because of that, they're working harder, working smarter, because they genuinely care.
Is that the number one thing? Like, we talk about give a shit, you keep mentioning that, and we use the term like gas, like giving gas, so it's give a shit. So, but and we use that a lot to fall back on. But what is you consult to clients, what is the biggest sort of barrier? Like, what is the number one thing to break down that barrier? So for your team, you're saying that they want to go on that journey, they're passionate about it and all that sort of thing. How do you turn someone from like, oh, I don't want to be salesy, to that attitude? Like, how do you break down that wall? So I know we talked about the uncomfortable feeling and everything, and I get that, and like the exposure part. Is it like just jumping in? Is it? We spoke about some tools. What do you think is the? Just
to add to that, but being salesy is the problem.
Is that just the problem? Is it?
It's making it natural. How to make it natural? Is that?
How to make it natural? How do you make it? How do you get people to come to work and just want to not sell, but like go on that journey with people? You know what I mean? Give a shit.
Well, I guess not providing an example to my business, because you'd hope that people that are working for me will actually want to sell. Because we're called Sales Hero. But speaking to other businesses, you made a point earlier, and so to kind of extend on it was, so people open a business based on a product or service that they're passionate about. Fitness, as you said, want to get fit, want to get healthy. And then we believe that you put the signage up and you put a few fitness people in there and it will come. But then there is so much more to that. And so the example I always give you is, you could be the best personal trainer in the world. You might know the recipes to success to help people to lose exactly what they want in terms of weight or build within whatever duration they want. You could have the most underperforming business though. You could. Because the fundamentals in your business aren't right. So how do we get them to feel comfortable, not to feel salesy, to be on the journey? It starts from like day one and day two. And like I said, they need to learn how to tie their shoelaces first. And when we're breaking that down, it's like, cool. So this is what we want to achieve. Like, this might be the monthly target. This might be the weekly target. This might be the daily target. How are all of these things achieved in the first place? They happen through a particular recipe to success. So, and I shouldn't pretend like I know anything about a physio clinic, but let's say that they need this many, clients to have a thriving business, like paid clients, they probably need to see a whole heap more initially to build their business, because we know that we don't convert at 100%. So then when we're trying to help people to better understand that, hey, you're actually okay to fail, because maybe 50, 60, 70, 80% of the people initially that you're speaking to, you will not convert.
Just on that, so from to help with that conversation, right? To convert someone to sit in the room with a physio, that conversion is definitely not 100%.
Yeah.
But the conversion from, hey, you're now sitting in front of me, to, hey, I can help you.
Yeah.
Should be fucking close to 100%.
Yeah, wow. Yeah.
Because, not because...
How much have you had to drink, man?
I've had 3 sips, man. Why? No, because
it should be, but
it's not,
problem.
right? It's because, and this is what we talk about, right? Because I'm with you. When you put out marketing, so you look at the journey of the client.
Yeah.
They're marketed to, they're sold to,
Yeah.
then they get put in front of the service.
Yeah.
Or the product. Yeah. For us, it's a service. But the thing with our journey is that when they get put in front of the service needs to still diagnose them and give them a understanding of what needs to happen.
Yeah.
Right. So the hard part is the sale before that, because we could get 100 leads and maybe only get 40 or 50% of them sit in front of us.
Yep.
And that would be a good conversion. But then when they're sitting in front of you, they've opted in to say, hey, I fucking need help. Yeah. The problem then becomes is everything that you've kind of touched on. Are they going on the journey with that client? Do they understand how to approach that and deal with those objection handles of time, money, and work?
Yeah.
And they're still going to happen when the client sat in front of you, because sometimes people sit in front of us and don't understand the enormity of what's ahead of them when they've got back pain or shoulder pain or neck pain. Right? Like you said at the start, it's if everyone was able to fix an injury in one session, if you're able to go to the gym and lose 10 kilos after one session, then everything would be fucking easy, right? But when it comes to actually putting a plan in place, that reality sets in. But and that's where maybe the conversion isn't 100% because of the reality. But it's not because we couldn't get to 100% at that point. We've lost people before that in the sales part.
100%. Yeah, and if we want to, set our team members up for success as well, and to actually want to be on the journey, it even goes deeper than that. Who and how are you marketing? Yeah. Because if you're marketing yourself in a particular way that's not actually really aligned to what you're offering, or you're just going for like a volume-based game of leads that are not actually like quality. They just saw the word free in some part of your copy and they said, oh yeah, cool, I like free, I'll click on it. Then what are you doing? You're investing in somebody in your business to make a whole heap of contact with people that were caught onto one word but didn't read the other 99 words that were attached to it as well. So it's so much deep. Like if we really want people to enjoy their jobs, to be set up for success, it's because they're probably going to achieve some results in it. And so they need to feel a level like, I can do this. And that's going to happen through everything before it, as you said, everything afterwards. So like bringing them on the journey is one thing, but it's also normalizing all the things that happen as well. So if a person does hang up on you, if the person does tell you to piss off, if the person, says, I'll call back later, then you call back later and they don't pick up. These are normal things, but these are the ways that you deal with those things. If the person says, hey, I'm actually at work at the moment. Like, do you just roll over? Or do you try and normalize the situation for the person? It's like, oh yeah, hey Sally, me too, haha. No, like, seriously,
that's what I'm calling you.
No stress, because in that moment they quickly say, oh shit, I shouldn't be an asshole. This person's just doing their job.
Showing a bit of empathy.
Or if the person says, oh, can you call me back at 7 p.m? Oh, yeah, Sally, I'm probably gonna be in
I'll be
bed.
with the kids.
So we need to we need to normalize those things.
That's so good because that does like put people off completely. You call someone, they say, what do you want? Like, I mean, how many times not so much now, I guess, but you get these cold calls from Telstra or whatever, or they're like, hey, you want to change your plan or this or that? And you're just like, get stuff. But it's just like I guess the volume of the calls, they're probably getting some success out of that. But like that doesn't put them off. They just pick up that phone and call the next person, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But I like you've just given us a really good insight on how to deal with time objection, right? we get a lot of clients that will say, oh, I don't know my schedule. Like, yeah, you don't, but neither do I. But hey, I've got this open right now.
You definitely don't know your schedule.
No, I don't. But this is what's open and available.
Yeah.
Like, how about we make sure we lock that in, right?
Yeah.
Or like, and I use this example all the time. Yeah, cool. You may not know your schedule the next fortnight, but if you went to see a surgeon and he said, I need to do surgery on you next week, the week after, or in 2 months' time, because my first opening is in 2 months' time, you're making that booking with the surgeon because of the enormity of the value that he's going to provide to your life. And I think that's the missing factor.
Yeah, you need to also, when selling, bring people on that journey with you to help them to understand and normalize their own circumstances. So I totally get it. I never know what my schedule is a day ahead, let alone 2 weeks ahead as well. Yeah. However, I do think if we don't put something in there, what you're complaining about today, you're going to be complaining about significantly more in 2 weeks because it's not going to get better on its own. Yeah. If anything, it's probably going to get worse.
Do you think what's maybe hard for sales as a sales perspective, right? When your team's on the phone and you're selling a whole range of things, right? You're selling a product or a service that someone can't feel and touch at that point in time. Right? And I always use the example that people will easily tell you, I can't afford physio right now. I can't afford to install the foam in my ceiling. But that weekend they'll go to Harvey Norman and buy a TV that's $1,500, $2,000. Right? It's because they can feel, see, and touch that, and they know the benefit. They can foresee the benefit. They can dream about the benefit of what that TV is going to bring them, as opposed to when you're selling something like a product or a service that they can't feel, see, and touch. Is that a barrier?
It's definitely a different set of skills. Yeah, it's a different set of skills. But the amount of businesses, we gave the 2D floor plan gym example, but the amount of pre-sales, I probably opened over 100 or more businesses that obviously hadn't opened their doors over durations of anywhere between, a short campaign of a few weeks to, 6+ months or whatever. And I gave the example, sell the sizzle, not the steak. And that kind of, that comment came from just like scrolling on the gram and seeing like the Vegas, like kind of nightclub bring out the steak in the briefcase with the whole, wham, bam, drums and music and the experience. Yeah.
I'd love that.
Yeah. How on the phone for something that hasn't even opened, do you speak to that and add those things? Yeah. And so one is like, obviously in this day and age, you don't have to just rely on your voice in that phone call. So often, like if I was selling for change, and let's talk about it before it opened, I could be like, oh yeah, if you felt your phone pinging while I was speaking to you, it was just me. I just sent you a text message. That's actually the overview of the schedule. You can see that the first class is this time, the last class is this time, and there's pretty much a class on the hour, every hour, except for those kind of off-peak times in between. So like, all of a sudden the person's like, I don't know my schedule. I don't know if I'm going to ever attend a class. They're thinking that, they haven't said it yet. And I've already overcome it because like, oh my gosh, this business is going to have a class literally all the time. I remember when I was selling at a 24/7 gym before, like this is before like virtual cycle studios were ever really a thing, and I don't know if they even are still much of a thing, but one of the selling tools to something that people never even used was you'd show them around the gym and be like, and check out this 24/7 virtual cycle studio. You can come in here, you can do a class anytime. Yeah, that's on the proviso, of course, that nobody else is doing a class at the same time. There's 30 bikes in there. You can turn it on like this, you press on that, and look at this, you're cycling on the Alps, yeah? So the person's like,
What is that accent?
yeah, wow.
Is that how you talk to different clients?
Yeah. Maybe.
Just the cards.
Yeah, maybe. Depends who I'm speaking to. But and they're like, yeah, that is actually really cool. Actually, I could probably, like time was a barrier for me, but I guess I could just come in anytime and do that. Yeah. They don't even use it, but in their mind they've already overcome a barrier, so they're just kind of like, okay, well that's that.
Correct. I've ticked the box.
Yeah. What was the question? I don't even know, but you know where I'm
objections.
It was the objection of and the ability to not, when you're not selling a TV, you're selling a dream. Essentially.
Okay. So something that hasn't yet opened. So you got to work with what you've got, and what you've got is something you believe in. That's why you accepted the job, hopefully. Unless you accepted a paycheck. Well, if that's the case, that's okay as well, because there's going to be a lot of staff that accept jobs for a paycheck because of their own personal circumstances. That's fine. So with that in mind, the person who employs you bloody better put a real good effort into letting that be the number one thing, but allowing number two to be so close to number one that they're interconnected. So how are they interconnected? It's not just because you now believe in the product and services that are going to open, because maybe you still won't. It doesn't matter how many ways you glamorize it. But if the person who employs you tells you one or two or three key things, like, one, this is really, really like important to us, me, because of these reasons, because this is the difference I want to make. Or maybe some people deal with a little bit of fear. It's like, okay, it took me this long to get this job. I applied for this jobs. Finally got a job. I need to maintain this job because my rent in Bondi costs this much. Okay, so what is it? It's like, and just letting you know, of course, like, I'm sure this won't be an issue, but obviously there's a probationary period attached to your employment. We really need you to make sure that you're doing this level of work, because when we find that we're doing this level of work, these are the metrics that follow thereafter. So I think there's so many ways you can go about it. It's not fear, but it's actually helping them to understand that if you do the work, the results will look after themselves. But if the results don't look after themselves, there's two key things going on. There's a skill issue, or there's an issue bigger than us. And that's where we need to strategize and work together to work out how we overcome that.
I like that. I know we're
Am I rambling?
No,
I love it.
We're pressed for time, and I know your time's super precious. But I do have one more question, right?
Give it to me.
We're going to give some rogue treatment right now, right? So we've talked about a lot of different aspects of how to tackle sales, right? And how to feel comfortable with it, how to overcome the fear, how to overcome the objections, right? And I definitely think just the way that you and your team do it is very rogue compared to a lot of sales. You know, you talked about the guy with all the accolades, right? And in my head, when you're telling that story, I can picture, like, you know, a real sales bro, right? And I didn't get that, like that image from any of your team. All your team is super nice. They're easy to talk to. Like, so you don't get that sales bro image from your team, right? So I think of all that and all the different aspects that we talked about. But the biggest objection I'll ever get from staff is, but everything that we've talked about, that's unethical to do that. How would you tackle that?
Boom. Yeah, I guess it's like helping them and helping yourself to understand which part is unethical. Because what is it? Is it the imaginary call to action that's like, oh, this offer is available in this time frame? Okay, so you have to then tie that deeper. It's like, okay, so this call to action might be used like every other week. Let's be real. But that's okay. But how do we layer it to help them to understand that there's a reason why that call to action is in there? So let's, for example, say a term that I've used in the past is called an early upgrade and save. And this is transferable to so many different industries. So, oh, by the way, within, you know, the first 72 hours of, because maybe the person's not going to make the decision at your clinic, within the first 72 hours of your first treatment, this is something that is eligible for you. That, so, you know, that's transferable to now every other person. And now the staff that you're like, oh, well, that's bullshit. No, it's like, actually, it's not. It's called an early upgrade and save. Write
that down.
But like that's the truth. So now that call to action that the person was like, oh, that's bullshit because you say that every week. It's like, yeah, but it's because it's tied into something. That's a thing that we're actually using now. While the person's trial is active, if they make a commitment whilst the trial is active, then they're entitled to X, Y, and Z. Now, that doesn't, and you have to go deeper again, that doesn't necessarily mean they need to be debited on that day. The payment needs to be scheduled for a day of their choosing beyond X date. Because the other barrier is, now they believe in it, that's great, but what's the barrier they're going to get? The person who is now starting to take the bait that they're selling to says, oh, but I still can't pay until this day. So then you layer it by saying, we can schedule the first payment on the day of your choosing. So they're committed. And so then that obviously that debit's coming out on a day that they're actually comfortable. So you've now overcome the barrier and you've empowered your staff to saying, this is actually something that is legit and perhaps they're getting an extra pat in the back for it as well. What's that clip look like? If your manager is now converting in an extra 20% in your business with a lifetime value of X per customer, everyone's a winner. So why not give back?
So I love that, right? he's going to be rewatching what you just said probably about 10 times. But so again, it comes so to take the unethical aspect out of it. It's like, you're providing value, you're creating an urgency because you know that the product or service you're giving them is going to benefit them.
Yeah. And everything to me is ethical. Not one approach in how we sell is unethical, because I will tie it into something, because I have to be on the journey for me to feel like there's a values alignment to how I sell. I'm only going to want to do the work if I believe that it's done with a level of integrity, even if it's used and abused and done time and time again. I'm going to tie it into something. Is that the person that I'm working for, that maybe the business owner that I'm working for is suicidal, and maybe I know his financial circumstances, and maybe that's all I need. That's all I need for this to be, because at the end of the day, I'm still selling something that I believe in, and I'm doing it for somebody that I genuinely care about. Or is it a process and procedure that is an early upgrade and save? Or is it a seasonal promotion? So how you communicate these things down to your team in those weekly, fortnightly, monthly, 6-week meetings that you kind of, re-armoring them with something is bigger than just the task. So the task isn't, we need you to do this because of that. It's like, no, the task is those things, but it's more than that. It's tied into these things. So then that way they can actually understand the purpose of it. The purpose of it is not just because the business owner wants to get rich. Yeah, this is something bigger than all of that.
Or just wants to survive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I love that. Because I think that there is like the key to understanding the purpose of what you're trying to sell or what you're trying to help someone with, right? It's more than just, I'm getting them to come in, or I'm
transaction.
Yeah. It's away from that.
Yeah, and knowing that you're going to go on the journey with them. I think that just takes away that whole ethical. You right?
Yeah, good.
It takes away that ethical barrier. Like you know that, I'm going to go on the journey with them, so I'm just as committed as they are. So how can we work around making sure that this journey can actually happen?
Sorry.
I was going to say, who's on your front line with you? If the war in the world, say right now, or I'd say right through till Jan, Feb last year, or longer, could even be just like, let's say the war is the economy. So like that's the biggest challenge for people in this day and age, is that like the economy, interest rates, like it's terrible. So who in your team that you're investing into and spending this money is standing next to you, or like straight behind you, not like 5 rows back and just hoping to, to kind of make it through. So it's kind of like, you need these people in your team, in your business, to be aligned with you, and because they want to. And I guess that's the key in all of this, is like, skills, handbooks, training tools, whatever, but are they actually with you?
You talked about a really important point there, right? Everyone, if the war is the economy and interest rates and the cost of living going up, right? At what point are you bringing the shit at home that's affecting your financial situation to your sales ability 100%. On someone who may not be in the same situation you are? Right? That, you might be talking to someone who's feeling the exact same pinch as you are. You may not be. But at the end of the day, we don't know anyone's personal finances. So do you think that that's a huge barrier for people to sell?
To performance in anything, sales, running, whatever it is based on like obviously preparation. Like nobody runs a fast marathon unless they've done a bunch of work behind it. Nobody sells well unless there's some kind of things behind it. So I think it starts that way. So I had a staff member only yesterday, the day before, and I kind of looked at it, I was like, I don't reckon he's had breakfast. Like I'm seeing him. I don't think he's had breakfast. He looks like shit.
He looks
exhausted.
He goes red when he hasn't eaten.
And drinks maybe.
The drinks though.
But like those things. All of those things play a part. So one of the things that I often do, and people think I'm like, I probably spend too much on my business, but there's a reason for the spend. Like I'm going to feed my staff because they're human. I'm going to feed them all the bloody time because I'd rather they have fuel in the engine to fire. So all of those things is like, how have they slept? have they fed themselves? What are they coming home to personally or financially or otherwise? You don't know these things. Some of them you do. But then just like when we're selling to consumers, you got to work out how to get the best out of, your people. And so you're taking those educated guests, because if you see them enough, you can tell when, the bags under the eyes are a bit deeper, the hair's a bit frizzier, they're less presentable, they're not standing as tall, they've yawned a couple more times than like those are just like attentiveness kind of things that we need to be aware of our people, because otherwise you're just hoping to put somebody on a salary and hope for the best. But it's it's those little things like when it has gone as far, and I again not proud to say some of these things because they're not exactly aligned in the health sector, but like probably two prong here. More PG would be that I have given, like I've come into the office and I've brought in a 4-pack of sugar-free V. I know that stimulus that the team will pick them up. And like, I don't want to feed them V. Like, that's not like a proud boss moment. But I also know that at 3 p.m, who's not dying? If they've been working hard, they've already made 120 calls.
But it's not about what you've bought them. It's the action that brings with it, right? So you're caring.
Yep.
And obviously, like, we can talk about the V, but it's not got nothing to do with the V. It's like, you give a shit. So if you show that you give a shit, your team is going to pass on that they give a shit.
Yeah. Person A is getting a V, person B is getting a lemongrass ginger. So whatever fuels each person is happening. And the same story. And person C...
Whiskey.
Seriously. Yeah. Seriously.
Fuck, you give them too much, they'll be on the floor sleeping.
I know.
One of our offices we used to hire a 16-person space in. We were the most hated people in there because we had so much fun. Yeah. The noise travelled from our office. We rang the bell every time we converted. The noise travelled because we celebrate every sale. Like, these things are important to our connection and our culture. And it doesn't matter if you're paying, $14,000 a month for your office. People give a shit if that noise is traveling. But at the same time, if I'm having that atmosphere and energy inside of my space, it's contagious. So that's moving away all of the fueling. And it's just like, that's just a natural kind of energy. We know that there's a hump in our day. So we know if we get to a certain threshold by halfway through the day, that the rest of the day we're going to be firing. But if we don't get over that hump by midday, we also know that it's going to be a battler of a day. So we're measuring everything.
But then that energy then gets transferred to the people that you're speaking to.
Oh, 100%.
Whether we mean it or don't mean it, if it's not there, it's fucking, everyone will know. But when the energy's there, everyone can feel it. Even through the phone.
Anyone in the sales game that are listening to this, they'll all know of a job where they've had like a end of month closeout. Our target's this and we needed to achieve that. What happens in the last 2 or 3 days? Your staff all of a sudden sell like they're superhuman because they want to hit their commission targets. Where the hell was that for the last 27 days? But all of a sudden they're like, they're feeling a connection closer to why. The why they need to be asking for the sale with a little bit more directness.
I like that.
So like, there's a reason why that happens. So if you can take that into your day every day, and that happens through different things. Like if you really manage your time and take like pride in each minute in the hour, you're like, I know how important it is that I do this and I say this and I do that, then the results start to flow because you're actually you're more mindful of what you're saying and how you're saying it.
Absolutely. Now, you're going to ask a question?
Unreal. No, look, I just want to summarize if we don't mind.
I was
pretty
going to
difficult
ask
too, but we go back to the question from Emily, why is sales such a hard sell? And we spoke about like it, people being uncomfortable, bringing their own things to work, or and then we spoke about so many tools about how to try and debunk it, which I think was pretty cool. We spoke about objection handling and pre-objection handling. I thought that was really cool. For me, the biggest takeaway though was and obviously giving a shit. But the biggest takeaway for me was just normalizing the whole sales process, like that, and your sell and everything's selling. Like the way you present yourself, like you said that at the start of the podcast, that's a sale. Like you're selling from the get go, from the first 3 seconds you walked in here today, you're selling yourself, right? You said so. I think that for me that was a big takeaway.
Yeah, well, I think like the biggest thing for me, if we're answering that question, is that it comes down to a mindset and fear. If we're able to deal with the mindset and the fear, we can bring all these. You talked about how it's not necessarily scripted or tools. It's you got to feel your way through it, know how to talk to people, know how to preempt things. But at the end of the day, all of that comes down to the energy you bring, the mindset, and can you overcome that fear of selling?
Yeah.
If you can do that, I think,
fear.
we've talked about a few examples here where you just start talking about something and the benefits and the value. Anyone can talk. Yeah, it just comes down to what you're fearful of.
And our friend Emily, I'm moving to the neighbourhood. I'm moving to Marrickville.
Hey, there
you want to come over for some free T&D?
Yeah.
There's training and development. For those who think I'm talking dirty, it's not, I promise. Emily, you're welcome to some free sales training anytime.
Nice. Very good. Is there anything you want to wrap up on there on sales? And
yeah, I guess it's just for the people that are scared, which is pretty much most people that are scared of sales, like, have fun with it. Yeah. And how do you have fun with it? You got to find what makes it fun for you. Obviously it's fun to achieve results. So what's the things in between, you making that first dial or asking for that first sale and getting the result? And often, like all of us, going back to the word like experience and run to the board, it's going to happen through that. So if the experience you've gotten in the world of sales to date hasn't gotten you from being, any decent at sales or any more confident, it's time to explore other avenues.
Yeah.
There is so much available and so many people that are willing to give to help you to be better and to have fun with it. Yeah. So I think, my word to people is like, if you want to have fun with it and you are nervous by the idea of it, then there is so many people, myself and free resources and different learning styles available to help people to enjoy something that isn't actually all that scary. Yeah.
And
be a hero, eh?
Be a hero.
Sales hero.
And obviously that's a plug for Sales Hero. But do you want to maybe just run through how people can find you, how they can best utilize your services, and what kind of call to action you would give anyone listening to this?
Yeah, cool. So on the socials, we're Sales Hero Me. So you want a sales hero? Sales Hero Me. That's us. Yeah, Sales Hero was an IG domain that I failed at, so I forgot the password. So anyway, that someone else has got that now. Sales Hero Me is us. saleshero.me is us. And so you can find us on the IG, you can find us on the web. Definitely not here to convince anyone to use our services.
No, but if they've gotten some super value out of here.
Yeah. But if they feel it'd be worth a chat, that I'm here, because I never ever, as it sounds as crazy as it is, I never want to tell somebody to use our services. I want to show them what we can do, and then leave it up to them. Because the worst thing in the world that somebody can do, and going back to employing somebody who actually doesn't believe in the product or services they're selling, is to partner with somebody that there's not that kind of that values alignment with. So here to work with good people who need a helping hand, very empathetic, values driven team. And I guess more than anything, the message would be is that we don't take the responsibility lightly, because we understand that you are actually trusting us with what could be a huge financial investment, and that's something that we really, I guess, are proud of being responsible for when we're involved in.
Awesome. Thanks for today, Cam. Cheers.
Cheers.
Unreal.
We've got one more thing.
Is it the
Sorry,
shoey?
the
Because
shoey.
We've got the shoey.
I got some new shoes for this episode, actually, and then I didn't realise that the shoes the shoes would never get a show. So for the camera, I just want to show my shoes that I'm not going to
Are they skateboarding shoes?
No.
They look intense.
Yeah. So,
No one,
nice.
you're not that tall. Now you've just got the platforms on.
yeah,
I
that's
see.
it. Yeah, I'm 6'2". Don't mind me.
All right.
Have you got the challenges in your shoe?
No.
They're in your shoe. Come on.
And I
I'm
also
not
want to
putting my hand in that shoe either.
Yeah. Yes, you are, bro. Just I
You
got a
can't
dodgy. I got a dodgy hip here. Hold on.
Can we add one thing into all of what we've discussed today?
Yeah, absolutely.
Go for it.
If we want people to actually be driven by results, so driven by sales and driven by performance, and I was listening to this on a podcast not all that long ago, they actually within reason, you kind of want them to have some of that in their DNA.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I guess the question is that performance DNA or that performance genetic inside somebody?
Yeah.
I think we kind of skip past all the kind of get to know each other stuff today. But like for me, like I'm driven by sales because I used to like compete in track and field, and I used to love that kind of stuff. Well, I still do. I don't run competitively anymore, but I have represented Australia, and I have coached athletes to,
Where's
you
your
know,
research, bro?
so for that's in my DNA. So that's going to be transferable to whatever I do.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
always
for
going to want
sure.
to do a decent job.
Yeah.
So I think that's like we've talked about it like a whole
Yeah,
heap
yeah.
of things, but I think who are you employing?
Yeah.
And are they actually driven by something?
I
You know,
love that.
are they really motivated to get out of bed in the morning and achieve something that actually is result orientated, or they just want to deliver a service?
Let's go. Put me on.
And the reality is, and I don't want to like end on a shit note, but the reality is, especially in our industry, if you just want to deliver a service, private practice ain't for you.
No.
If you want to give a shit, if you have some performance mentality, and it's not just performance around how many clients you see, it's performance around getting the result for that client as well. That is a huge performance factor.
The hardest part, getting them to the end, right?
Getting them to the end, right?
Which is what they came in for in this.
So I'm with you. If you don't have that in your
Yeah.
DNA, then there's no fucking point in being in private practice.
Yeah.
You know, and there's probably no point in being a PT in a gym if
Yeah.
you're not driven by getting to that result.
Yes, but I'm
Yeah.
back to the shoey. Is that where we're at?
Sorry, but that was a
Yeah.
good point.
Just
I like
open
that.
up the whiskey there, James.
Oh, the
I'm
whiskey?
joking. I'm joking. Cam's got to do the shoot. Cam, you going to pull it out?
Yeah, Cam can pull
Come
it
on.
out.
What am I pulling out?
There's a challenge in there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's lots of pieces of paper. Yeah, well done. He's
Yeah.
picked up one.
Yeah.
All right, you have to read that out.
Can
If you
we
can
not
read
put
my...
the shoe on my laptop.
Is calorie counting just a big fat fad? Bill from Bondi.
Big fat fad. What's written there?
Yeah.
Love that. Okay.
Bill.
Who? Bill from Bondi.
Bill from Bondi.
Very good. So that's our next pod, James, if we
That's our
can.
next one. Yeah. We'll get someone in who can talk about
Have you ever done
calorie
any
counting.
calorie counting before? With your representing Australia thing that you never
A
mentioned?
little bit. I've always been a heavier runner. Yeah. Actually, I was one of the lines I had for you today was back to the double digits today, boys. First time in a little while. We're back into the 99 club. Here we go. 5 kilos down. Anyway, yeah.
you just take the shoes off, you'll be
yeah.
another 5.
Yeah. It's a good point. Yeah.
No,
a little bit. Yeah.
Okay,
That's
cool.
cool. Well
Awesome.
done.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Cam. I appreciate it. Guys, you know, obviously Sales Hero, great to kind of help you with your sales. So reach out to Cam and his team if you do need some help with sales. But I think we had a really good chat
Loved
around
it.
that.
Loved it.
There's some super great nuggets of gold there.
Yep.
So listen back if you need to.
I will.
Yeah, I think
I've
you'll
got some
need
notes
to.
to make, yeah.
And we'll get someone on to talk about some calorie counting,
Calorie counting.
next.
All right,
And is
awesome.
it a fad? Shit.
Big fat fad.
We might
Who's
cop a
Bill?
couple of punches
I
after
know.
that. But yeah. Well, thanks everyone. Have a good day.
All right,
Thanks,
cheers.
Cheers, boys. Thanks for having
Thank
me.
you.